First, let's consider BGP authentication. We first want to understand what it is not, what it provides. We want to understand how to configure it, and then also how to verify it's actually functional. So to begin with, BGP authentication, much like OSPF and EIGRP neighbor authentication, provides restriction from devices that can form neighbor relationships. And it also authenticates all messages sent between the configured peers. Remember, in BGP configuration, you talk about BGP neighbors, BGP peers, or BGP speakers, and they all mean essentially the same thing. The other thing that BGP authentication is able to do is, because of the authentication process, it can prevent denial of service type attacks. And as we've discovered previously, is there are certain things that authentication does not provide. It does not provide encryption of neighbor traffic. It does not provide any type of data privacy. To really be able to configure that would require IPsec to actually encrypt both sending and receiving of information. It would have to be configured per router, and it could be rather CPU intensive. But suffice it to say that authentication itself between neighbors does not provide any type of data privacy. Now, BGP authentication, there are a couple things about it that are distinctive. Much like EIGRP authentication, only MD5 is supported. There is no clear text password support. As with the other protocols that we've discussed, there is a pre-shared key configured on neighbors. Understand that it is case sensitive. Capital C Cisco and lowercase c Cisco are considered different keys, so keep that in mind. Another thing is it cannot contain a space after a number. It's just part of the logic of the way that it's written. So you can't have, for instance, BGP1 space anything. So keep that in mind. You can't do that within the key. And then you can use certain special characters, which we've listed out here before, and make sure you pay attention to those. And also understand that authentication is completed on a per neighbor basis. So in our diagram to the left, for example, R1 has to have 2 peering sessions and 2 password statements required to be able to have authentication between itself and the internet router and between router 1 and router 6, and it's the same conversely. So keep in mind it's on a per neighbor basis. Configuring BGP authentication is remarkably straightforward. As with a lot of other things, you enter router BGP configuration mode, router BGP, the autonomous system number. One of the things that you can do is make sure the neighbor relationship is already up and present. Otherwise, you might erroneously think you've done something wrong in authentication because the neighbor relationship isn't coming up. So do that with the neighbor, IP address, remote AS. This is actually the configuration statement, but you do show IP BGP neighbor, for example, and make sure that everything is there and that it's in the configuration. And then configure and apply the pre-shared key to the neighbor configuration. You recall, the first thing you do is you put neighbor, peering address, remote AS, and the autonomous system number. Once that's done, and it's in the configuration, you can actually do a variety of other things, as we did in our basic lab, where you can change the timers or the source address or put in multi-hop. In this case, you put neighbor, the IP address that you're peering on, password, and then whatever the key is. And you do that for each neighbor relationship on both sides of the connection. Once you've done your configuration for BGP neighbor authentication, you need to make certain that everything is still up and functioning. So one of the things that you can do is use the command show IP BGP summary. It should show the active peers listed, and it should be in established mode, and you should see the prefixes that were being advertised and those sorts of things. You should not see active or idle or any of the other statements or something's been misconfigured. To get more detail, you can do show IP BGP neighbors, which, as you recall from our previous exercises, lists a multitude of different information elements for you to be able to understand what's going on with that neighbor relationship. And all the expected neighbors should actually appear. You can also do debug IP BGP and then the IP address and then updates to display the different neighbor exchanges that are going on if you want to do that for troubleshooting purposes. And then always make sure you set your NTP, Network Time Protocol, so that when you're looking at different syslog entries, you'll understand that everything's synchronized. So, because if it says March 1st on one and February 3rd on the other, and the time signatures are completely different, it's going to be really hard to correlate data.